Welcome back to Kairyu Rider and a family outing at Ushiku Daibutsu. Ushiku Daibutsu. So, for this week, my wife and I rode our bikes out to Ibaraki to see this lovely gigantic statue, and I figured it was a good chance to tell you the rest of the mods I did on my Tracer 900 GT. If you're curious about the original mods, like the box and everything, I have a video on my Tracer playlist that you can look for, but today I'm just going to talk about future mods and the two newest mods. So one thing I still want to do is the seat. It's fine, but it's not amazing. I got a gel pad that I can cut into the seat, and if that doesn't work out, I guess I'll buy a Bagster seat just like my wife's bike. There's a whole playlist on her bike as well. And eventually, the cruise control is amazing, but it has the problem of, for some reason, Yamaha Japan limits it to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour, and there's roads in this country that go up to 120. That's a pretty useless modification, especially when most people are going 10 or 20 kilometers over the speed limit, and I'm just stuck at 100. Why tour if you don't use the cruise control you paid extra to get? The other mod that I did recently is, let's turn on the bike. The blinkers have moved. Originally they were down here, and when they're there, you couldn't really see them from the front. And so what I did was I took some caulk and extended the wires, and I ran them up here, if you can see right there. It holds on great. It's been on for a few months now, and they're much easier to see for everyone. And I can even turn them like normal blinkers, so if I need to point them towards a certain direction in traffic, everyone can see me coming. So that's, again, a cheap mod. It's the same blinkers as the original video if you want to check that out. Other than that, there is one major part, this. So if you remember from the original video, there was a flat piece of carbon fiber, and what that would do is, as I'm riding along, it would shoot the air straight into my helmet, and it would be unbelievably loud over 70 or 80 kilometers an hour. And as I said, some roads go over 120, so it was terrible. And that was one of the big reasons I hated this bike so much compared to my wife's bike, because hers, it slips the air around and really quickly over. It's really quiet. Like, her bike at speed is the quietest naked bike I have ever ridden, and it's possibly one of the quietest bikes in general that I've ridden. But that's not the real inspiration for this part. So for the shape, where it's got this angles, it pushes everything down and around. But if you've ever seen on a big cargo ship, it has a bulbous bow, which I'll put a picture up if you don't know what that is, but it's to stop wakes. So as the ship pushes waves out, it pushes upward waves to cancel them, to make everything much smoother. Now, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a master's of aerodynamics, so this is not exactly that, but it gets the same effect. So what it does is it slips the air around instantly. It even pushes this air down because of the slipstream from this, and this little angle, if you can see. And this part goes, and since it's got the air riding on, it sucks it down. So all this wind here just goes straight past, and the loudest part is right by my phone mount right here, and I'm not tucking my head down there. My head's always up here. So at speeds up to almost 120 today on the Kosakador, this is super quiet. It's quieter than any windshield configuration. It's quieter than anything I've seen reviewed, because there's nothing for this bike reviewed that's quiet except for just taking everything off. Well, taking things off and then adding this is even quieter. As for how it looks and what it's made of, that's why a lot of you are watching this video. A lot of you may not be bikers. You're just curious at the fact that this is called a hemp part. And it is pretty much only hemp. The exception would be, obviously, these bolts are not made of hemp, and there's aluminum spacers to hold it to the mounting brackets. But beyond the resin and the paint, it is a big piece of blue jeans colored hemp. The reason I picked that is because it was originally about the same color as the bike. Obviously that didn't work out. What happened was, as I got it wet with the resin to harden it, it changed to this purplish color, and sanding it brought out the white bits, and painting it kept it this shiny color. Making it this way, I intentionally made it clear paint because I like the colors here. I like the shape. It's good that it's a rather cloudy day here in Ibaraki, because if it wasn't, this is so shiny and such high-end paint, as I do work at a custom motorcycle garage, that the paint is ridiculously shiny in the sun. Like, you can't see what's going on. Like, if you see the top, how it's pretty much white with shininess, that's the whole thing in the sunlight, and then at night it's too dark to see. I like it because in person it looks exactly like if you can see these purple and white colorings. And you can see I'm wearing my X-Lite carbon fiber helmet because in the first take you could see my entire face. You could tag me on Facebook and it's really, really shiny. But this is 3 layers of hemp, which I just bought on Amazon. Hemp in Japan has always been legal. The emperor wears it in his robes. It's a very popular traditional part of Japanese culture, not to be confused with marijuana, which I'm sure plenty of people in the comment section will point out the difference. It's completely different. There's no value to hemp beyond, say, a sheet of cotton. And it's very strong. It's shockingly strong. It's between 1 and 3 layers. Like right here, this tip, if you can see that little line going across, that's where this part becomes just 1 piece. And then it goes all the way up to 3 or 4 through here, just because of how sanding worked out. This isn't a super technical piece. It just is hemp, and I used my carbon fiber and fiberglass expertise to organize it. The shape is not perfect because I was in a rush and on quite a bit of a budget because this is all my money. So if you see here it's a bit lower and here it's a bit higher. It's the way the hemp dried on the mold. It just wasn't perfect. It's not as easy to work with in thick sheets as carbon fiber or fiberglass is. Carbon fiber is much easier to screw up, but much easier to do right as well. Fiberglass is super forgiving once you know what you're doing. But the way I made this with the mold, and I'm not saying this is the best way, I'm just saying it's my way. But what I did was I made the shape out of paper and aluminum tape, and then I covered that in fiberglass. I sanded the fiberglass down, used a wax release, and did the hemp with a clear resin. I sanded it, I painted it, I did the aluminum bits with some tricks that my boss helped me out with, and it's pretty simple. It organizes all the air away from me. It's unbelievably perfect for what I want. And the downside for you is if you are a tracer owner and you're tired of the loudness or you want the bike without the windshield, I can't mass produce this right now. I can't make this for sale. This is just to let you know what I did. Get some feedback. Tell me what's wrong with it. Tell me what's right with it. Tell me why you love it, why you hate it. Tell me why I'm a piece of garbage, as some will. But hopefully someone's inspired by this. I'm very happy with the results. I think it's wonderful. And, you know, a little bit of some virtue signaling. Climate change is real. We can use other things besides plastics and metals. And I'm not saying replace the whole world with this, but all the research says it's amazing. I agree. It's got a little bit of flex to it, more than fiberglass, similar to carbon fiber, but it's very rigid. Like, it's hard to break. I actually originally took it and I was curious, so could I snap it in half? I can't even bend it. So it's a wonderful product. It kind of turned out a purple white shine kind of thing, not the same color as the bike, but I think it matches enough with the black. It matches enough with the bike, at least on camera. I think it looks good. People at bike stops have liked it. I've had it for maybe 2 weeks now. It's awesome. It's so good that I could almost sell the windshield outright and say, why would I ever replace it? Unless we talk about resale. And that's the trick. Once I fix the seat, if I can afford to do the cruise control, there's not much left to do with this bike, with the exception of, I have a friend who said he might want to go for a ride sometime. I'd have to take this all off. I'm considering what to do with panniers to customize them so they fit between the handlebars for lane filtering. But for now, for a solo rider, and since my wife has her own way to get around, it might be getting pretty close to a perfect bike.
Since filming this video, I've put my Daytona top rack back on my bike with my tail bag. It's the same tail bag as on my Street Triple and on my wife's SV. My wife and I need to make a road trip together to save money, and I have a few more friends that are interested in rides. So, the bag goes nicely on the seat and on the rack for 2-up rides. Otherwise, the top box goes on the standard position. I tilted it back with spacers for pillion comfort to counter Daytona's forward lean. For longer trips, I can use both, or even both on top of each other. The weight doesn't seem to matter like this because I'd already have a second person on the back riding with me. Daytona says not to put over 5 kilo or 12 pounds on the rack, but that's less than the box empty, and I've tested putting more weight on it, but I'm not telling you to do that. at your own risk. This is the best for lane filtering plus 2-up riding, but solo is still box over seat as the best possible option. I'm hoping to figure out a tight way to do something like I did with my Tiger. Panniers are the favorite of physicists, but money is a bit of a problem right now, so I'll wrap up the video, and this will be the end of mods for now.
Again, this is not something I can mass produce. This is just to inspire people to say there are options. I will say one way I could have made this better is if I took the hemp cloth and instead of cutting out shapes and trying to fit them together, peel all the strands off and use individual strands like you do with matte fiberglass instead of woven fiberglass and lay it out that way. That would have been much easier to fill in. And that's how I filled in some gaps here around the aluminum. There's plenty of ideas out there. You can use something called eco-poxy if you can get it. It's much more environmentally friendly. It seems stronger. It probably bonds better being more organic. Plastic on plastic decays together. It's harder. That's a concern I do have going forward. Will the resin that's designed for carbon fiber and fiberglass wear out the hemp? Will the hemp start to dissolve in some way? Again, I'm not a chemist. I'm not aerodynamics guy. I just did a little research, did a little quick stuff. It worked out great. This isn't a racing bike. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope maybe someone's inspired, and I hope you enjoyed a little visit to Ibaraki's Ushiku Daibutsu. And until next time, this has been Kairyu Rider and the wife.